Imagine walking into a meeting, recording 60 minutes of chaos, and walking out with a project plan, assigned tasks, follow up emails drafted, and calendar invites ready to send without typing a single word. That's not 5 years away. That's Tuesday if you know which buttons to push. I'm Joe Downs. With me is Peter Swain. We're just a couple of successful idiots. One of us built a business storing other people's junk. The other one talks to robots for a living. I'll let you decide who's who. Hey, Peter, let's step inside the hustle lab and show these people how AI can put more horsepower behind their hustle than a British "I'm fine" has unspoken grievances. All right, Peter, as promised. All right, I saw you laugh. So my British humor's landing? Is that what
your humor's landing
okay.
Beautifully.
Because I don't understand it, but I'm glad you laughed. All right. Peter, as promised, I've got my ear to the street out there. I'm paying attention to the buzz when it comes to AI. I've got friends, family members, colleagues. They're coming up to me almost like I'm some sort of guru at this point, which of course I'm not. But they're collectively asking me, or maybe I'll say this, the common denominator of the confusion that I interact with lies in what tool do I even use? And I know we touched on it a little bit previously in a previous podcast, but I feel like we should take a deeper dive into some of these tools over the next few podcasts. But I don't want to dive into the deep end on them. And you're not supposed to dive into the shallow end. So let's wade in, if you will.
So you want to dive further in without diving deep? Just checking. Okay.
Exactly. It's got to feel safe and comfortable.
Perfectly clear. I get where you're at.
All right. So I know people listening have heard us talk a lot about ChatGPT and have probably already been using it, and that's great. So let's start here. Before we get into Gemini, which is the tool I want to cover today, I want you to address what I'll call the elephant in the room, which is, why are we starting with Gemini and not ChatGPT? This is going to be a funny question, I have a feeling, but is ChatGPT dead to you?
So, okay, first of all, I think everyone should start with ChatGPT. Simply because it is the one that will tell you that you're awesome the most. Not because it's actually particularly useful, but because it's going to be the one that goes, that's a great idea, Joe. And it's a real friendly, cuddly, warm experience using ChatGPT. And when you go to the other tools, Gemini, Claude, Grok, etc., they get progressively less friendly, but they get progressively more useful. So at this point, we're 3 years into this journey of AI. They've all started developing their own kind of mannerisms and nuances and almost personalities. So Gemini has a very distinct, different flavor to it to ChatGPT.
So when you say less I think I know what you mean, because I'm gonna tease what we're gonna do in the next episode, which is Grok. And well, I'm not going to tease it too much because Grok is so fascinating to me when you talk about the personality, which is basically what you're saying, right? The friendliness. Yep. And I think people are going to be interested to hear what we have to say about Grok. But when you say friendliness in ChatGPT, or it's the friendliest, break that down for me. What do you mean by friendly? Like it's got mannerisms, or is it more pleasing? Is that what you mean by it?
Yes. So it's kind of I always want to do a little bit of tech, just a tiny bit of tech. So the way you train an AI, an LLM, a large language model, these things we're talking about, is you feed it in everything that's ever been said and ever been written, and it works out the relationships between the words. But the next step up from that is, how do you weight the information? So not all information is equal. So for example, if NASA says this is how the Hubble telescope works, you would give that a higher weighting than a Reddit blog.
Okay.
Yeah. So
makes sense.
You have weightings of information. And now that's a very simple example, but imagine that on 1 trillion pieces of information at the same time. So how you weight the information is going to change how the AI responds in any given situation. So ChatGPT has been weighted around, as you said, pleasing. So if you say, I just don't want to get out of bed today, take that as an example. ChatGPT is quite likely to go, that's right, you deserve a lion. You should always rest up, look after yourself. That's great. Yada. And you'll be like, so that was a good idea. Now, and again, I don't want to tease it too much either. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum, which is Grok. Grok would say, you schmuck. Are you that lazy? Well, I'm not even going to bother responding to you if you can't be asked to get your ass out of bed and get at your day. End of conversation. Like literally, Grok stands a chance of just shutting down and not talking to you at all. So as you start using these tools, you start working out, okay, where is your personality going to help me? And where's your personality going to help me? For example, you don't want a bookkeeper that is pleasing you. You don't want a CPA that just goes, yeah, that's a great idea, Joe. Let's do that. You don't want that. You want a CPA that goes, that is a terrible idea. That's going to put you in jail for 5 to 25. We should not do that. So, for example, if I was working on finance stuff, I wouldn't touch ChatGPT. I would rather go back to a pen and a piece of paper and an Excel spreadsheet, because it's going to tell me that any assumption I make is correct.
Okay.
If you prompt it naively.
Yeah.
You have to get really, really laser tight specific, telling ChatGPT that you don't want it to please you in order for it not to please you.
Okay.
And by the way, this wasn't a bug. This is a design feature that was built deliberately and intentionally by OpenAI in order to make them the world-leading product, because when you pick up the product, it feels good.
It's got the peak end experience.
Peak end, you're like, oh, wow, this was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you pick up Grok, you don't go, this was amazing. You go, wow, that felt like someone beat me around the head.
Okay. So coming into this, I'll be honest with you, with the more recent release of Gemini and Gemini reaching a 131, I think, IQ, and I don't know where ChatGPT stands today on that.
Today or yesterday?
It's just not fair.
It isn't.
Can you give us a chance? What does it mean today or yesterday?
Don't blame me. Okay, we need to do a bit of a backstory for everybody. So ChatGPT was easily the market-leading product when it was on ChatGPT 4.0, which was about 3 months ago. They then released ChatGPT 5.1 about 6 weeks ago, probably-ish, kind of, and they killed it. It was a very, very bad release. And this is according to most of the market, most of the industry, and OpenAI themselves. They're like, yeah, we did not hit the mark on ChatGPT 5.1. So they issued what's called a code red of like, everyone stop doing everything apart from fix this. And they released ChatGPT 5.2 this morning. So... So as of this morning, anyone that does this for a living, aka myself, is busy scrambling around, rerunning our tests, rerunning our prompts, and going, okay, where are we at now?
Okay, so for the commoner like me, who, by the way, wants to talk about Gemini today, where I thought Gemini was, 131 IQ, that's the new... I literally thought we were in a Betamax versus VHS situation.
I got a question for you, and our producers might decide to cut this out. But do you know why Betamax failed and VHS succeeded?
I don't. I was just a young boy. Actually, and I remember my school had Betamax, which looked perfectly fine to me. And then at home we had VHS, which also looked perfectly fine to me.
I love this because it's such an interesting story. So Betamax had twice the run length. The tape was stronger, so it didn't snap as much. And it was slightly wider, so it actually encoded more information. So it was a higher frames per second. It was a better product. But Betamax was a Sony product. And the chairman of Sony at the time was deeply religious. So he banned Betamax being used for pornography. So, right? So who at the time went to a video store? Men or women?
Men and kids. That was an outing
kids.
for
so
kids
when you
as
walked
well.
in, you had VHS on one side, Betamax on the other side.
And then there was the downstairs that I wasn't allowed into.
And that was all VHS,
yes.
Right? So what did the average 30-year-old guy go, I could buy a VHS player or a Betamax player. Well, this one has some other content available and this one doesn't. I'll buy that. The downfall of Betamax is due to the Sony chairman not allowing pornography on the platform. Anyway, we can decide whether we keep that in or not as a fun fact.
Who would have thought?
It's fascinating.
That is anything but the perfect segue into what is Gemini, but we're here. So
the reason it is kind of a perfect segue, I'm going to make it into one. I'm going to force feed this into being a segue.
Yeah, you took us here. You got to fix this thing.
Is you have a law of unintended consequences, and sometimes what seems like a very, very small decision can end up defining the route and the path of something. Gemini has long been kind of the ugly stepsister in the world of AI. It's been a joke up until about 8 months ago. And everybody was like, oh, Gemini, it's dead and it sucks and it's terrible. It's like, hang on a second. ChatGPT and OpenAI had nothing to lose. There was pure disruption. It was, tech, Silicon Valley 101, let's just destroy an entire market. But Google, on the other hand, their entire reason to live is to provide accurate answers to information. If something's inaccurate, Google can't be affiliated with it. Now, we use these phrases in AI called hallucinating, which is essentially, how often does the AI just make something up? Like completely lie. And for quite a while, that number's been around 20-25%. It's dropping now.
That's a lot.
Well, yes and no. Let's just make sure.
Why does it lie?
Well, let's make sure we have just first of all, I always want to just make sure we have an apples for apples comparison, because the average human lies 15% of the time. So when we say that AI hallucinates / lies 25% of the time, let's just make sure we're comparing it to the human, which is 15%. We're not comparing it to 0. We're comparing it to 15.
Now, 90% of statistics are made up on the spot, like that one. So
lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yeah, I've told you a trillion times. So AI, why does it hallucinate? It hallucinates because it was never designed to actually tell the truth. It was designed to predict the next word that it should say. So it uses this big probability thing. So when you see AI typing, when you see it like animating the words, that isn't actually just a cutesy animation. That's actually it thinking. It doesn't know the next word it's going to say when it says the next word. So if you ask it a completely nonsensical question, like, I'm about to buy a house on Mars, does the real estate laws of Venus still apply, or would the priorities come from Pluto's legislative book? There's a good chance it will answer the question. It will say, that's a great question, Joe. I think you'll find that the Mars set up its own treaty, and you'll be like, what? This is just completely made up. Gemini is a lot closer to telling the truth, because Google can't be associated or affiliated with a product that would hallucinate.
Okay. So I want to bring this back so that this was great, but I want to bring this back to so understand it, because you didn't really answer the question.
Which one?
Is ChatGPT dead to you? Because last week or the week before, or maybe it was your mastermind, I don't recall, but you made a bold statement about you really only use Gemini, and I think you
100%.
said maybe Claude.
So Claude is my primary, Gemini is my secondary, Manus is my tertiary right now.
So with so much overlap between ChatGPT and Gemini, that's why I'm asking, is this a Betamax or a VHS situation?
So it's not dead to me, but it would be like saying we're in a long-term relationship and we've agreed to have a break, but the break doesn't stop us from sleeping with other people. Because ChatGPT is I don't know the exact valuation, but it's near on $1 trillion company with a insane amount of VC money and sovereign wealth money that's funding its development. So turning around and saying that it's dead to you at this point because it made one wrong misstep would be churlish. However, do I currently see a use case for it in my workflows? No, but that could change.
Okay. I think maybe if I'm a listener, I'm more confused. So, because I sit here before you as more confused.
So let's ask a set of different questions. So what would I use Gemini for over ChatGPT?
Sure.
How about that? So Gemini to me has four very, very strong capabilities which give it an edge. The first one is it has what's called a larger context window, which is a technical phrase to say how much information can it understand at once. Okay, how much can it understand at once? So, for example, in Gemini, you could upload the quarterly results of every company on the NASDAQ and ask it to find the patterns. It can understand that much information at the same time.
And I couldn't do that on ChatGPT?
Nowhere near. ChatGPT's context window is 100,000 tokens, and Gemini is 2 million, I think. Million to 2 million.
So it's got a bigger brain?
It has a bigger, brain's a strong word, because it's not about, you could mean that as an intelligence. It can see more stuff at the same time.
So I don't know why I need to be at peace with this, but does that mean it can process more stuff when you say see more stuff? And does it even matter? Should I just accept what you're saying? It's just because it's going to change tomorrow, apparently.
Well, let me give different examples so that listeners can kind of put it in their own world. Let's say you've been running a company for 15 years. In Gemini, you could upload the accounts of all 15 years and ask it to find trends and patterns and spot things across 15 years worth of data. And in doing so, it's going to find new, unique insights by going, apparently every November this happens, or when this person takes a vacation, this happens, because it can see more at the same time. Whereas if you wanted to give it just in ChatGPT, you could only give it 1 year's worth of data. So it couldn't see patterns in 10, 20 years worth of data because it couldn't see 10, 20 years at the same time.
Okay. I don't know why I have an infatuation with landing this for myself, but my takeaway is going to be, because I want to move on to actually talk about what Gemini can do and some cool features of it. But the way you make it sound is like ChatGPT is just a lighter version of Gemini today, as they both exist today. Is that?
I'm trying to.
I'm going to stick to self-storage. Okay.
Okay, let's stick to self-storage. What I'm saying is, in Gemini, you could upload the occupancy rates across the last 12 months of every self-storage unit within 2,000 miles of one of your self-storage units, and the population data, and the demographic data, and the census data, and it could find patterns in that to tell you. Whereas ChatGPT could not do that because it couldn't process that much at the same time.
Too much of a volume of information.
But that isn't that I'm saying that the analysis of Gemini would be better than the analysis of ChatGPT. I'm just saying Gemini can understand and see more at the same time. If you want to give it a human example, this could be a good way of putting it. Would you rather give a set of data to an 85-year-old data analyst that has worked on Wall Street for 20 years, but is starting to kind of lose his mind a little bit? Or would you rather give it to a 22-year-old who's just drunk Red Bull for 3 days?
That's a really good question. Probably the 85-year-old.
Then you'd rather use ChatGPT than Gemini in that example.
Interesting. That is not what I thought you'd say.
Because the 85-year-old can't remember all of the stuff at the same time, so he's not going to see patterns. But he's going to make better analysis of the thing.
But it's got the experience that the 22-year-old doesn't.
Correct.
All right. Let's talk about Gemini.
Basically, in Gemini, if you're working with large sets of data or large sets of text or hour-long videos, Gemini is going to beat ChatGPT. That's the easiest way for me to break it down.
One of the things I loved about and still do about ChatGPT are the GPTs themselves. I go over to Gemini. It's newer for me, admittedly, but I'm a Google workspace person. Everything in my company's Google, a little bit of Notion, but mostly Google. Gemini's part of it. Does it have better, two questions here. Does it have better integration than my workspace that is actually, I don't know how you'd say it, hooked up to, married to, whatever, permissions are granted to ChatGPT? Which has better integrations? But then also, does a gem equal a GPT equal a gem, or are they different?
Okay, so now we went to, before you did the gem thing, you touched on what is the second thing that Google's better at than ChatGPT, and that's Google Workspace integration. Because it's part of the Google Workspace, it natively understands your calendar, your Google Drive, your email, your Meet, your Keep, and everything else. So if you're in the Google world, there are clear advantages. Clear advantages because it knows, you can say, when am I meeting Joe again? What did we talk about on the last meeting? What emails have I got? Give me everything I know about Joe. And it can go, okay, here it is. It can do that.
So let me pause you. One key solid takeaway from this podcast. If you're a Google person, I don't know how to say that differently. If your business is Google, if you are predominantly Google and you're toying with AI, haven't yet, you're an inch deep right now, but you're looking to take that next step, would it be fair to say you're better with Gemini because of that Google integration than ChatGPT? Yes. Okay. But you're not behind by using ChatGPT. If you're comfortable, you're already there.
100%.
Good.
The most important part of this is that you're comfortable. The easiest, weirdest way to describe this is your girlfriend might be hotter than my girlfriend, but if I love my girlfriend, it doesn't matter how hot your girlfriend is, I'm still in love. So if ChatGPT feels right to you and it's working well for you, then just ignore this whole conversation. If Gemini feels good to you, just ignore the whole conversation. That's the most important part of the equation, because the barrier to AI adoption is the human, not the AI. The thing that we've got to get resolved is people being comfortable speaking to AI. So whichever AI they're more comfortable speaking to is by default the right answer. Let's just quickly do the third and fourth thing, and then I want to answer the gem question. So we'll do this quickly. The third thing that Google is pretty much the market leader in right now is video generation. Google VO 3.1 is unbelievably good. Now, this is a very specific use case because it's really only for people that do marketing, or they need B-roll, or they need video.
That's part of Gemini. I don't have to go
part of the Gemini package. Yep, you can just hit create video, type it in, hit go, and you'll get a 10-second video. And then the next one is Nano Banana, or the Google image generation. Nano Banana Pro is what leaps and bounds above everybody else. It supports what's called character consistency. So you can get one image and then get another image, and it can be based on the last one. So if you wanted to have a consistent character, like in a storybook, you wanted to animate a storybook, it would use the same type of picture each time. It can render text accurately, which no one else can do, which means it can do infographics very, very well.
Does it actually, if I have it generate an image, let's say I'm looking at my backyard, I got a picture of my backyard, I'm thinking about putting a hot tub back there, and I ask it to create an image. If you do that in ChatGPT, you can get an image, but then as I've, at least when I've played around with it, you start to ask it to tweak it, change the color, do this, move that over there. It just goes right back to the same picture. It's like, nope, this is what you get. Does Gemini actually respond?
Yes.
Okay. So
because Nano Banana has consistency, you could lower the hot tub, increase the height of it, put it in the floor, move it 3 feet to the left, and it's going to keep up with you.
Go from square to circle if you want to. Okay.
100%.
Interesting. Okay.
Show me what it would look like with 6 people in it.
All right. Did we do all 4 there?
That's the 4. So video, imagery, workspace integration, and its context window, its size of information it can hold.
All right. We haven't covered GPTs yet on our podcast, so I feel like you need to give a quick background on what they are to introduce the gem.
So a custom GPT is your ability to pre-save a prompt. So you can take a prompt, save the prompt, and then distribute it to somebody else. So for example, in my company, we categorize content quite regularly because we produce about 8 hours of live content a week, and we need to transcribe it, pull it out, make it searchable, put it here, do this. There's like 15 things that have to be done. So what we did is I created a custom GPT where I described how I wanted that done. What was the nuance of the process? And then instead of giving somebody an SOP, I gave them the GPT and said, just run this. So it's a pre-saved prompt. So it's very, very useful for 2 things. One, if you wish to continually redo the same process. So let's say you do an end of week reflection on a Sunday and you do it the same way every Sunday. Custom GPT, perfect use case. Second one is if you want somebody else other than you to do something in the way that you want it done. You would put that into a custom GPT and send it on its way.
Okay.
And the answer to your question is a gem a custom GPT, and vice versa is yes.
So they're just called different things.
The only difference is when you write a custom GPT, you write it in second person language. So when you're writing the prompt, you say you are a expert in blah 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 blah, and in a gem you say I am an expert in blah 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 blah. It's the only difference.
Really? Why is that?
Just the way that they configured it. Like when Gemini is reading the text as if it's opened a book. So it says, I am I am. Got it. I understand. Whereas in ChatGPT, they preferred the nomenclature of you are a, and it goes, got it. I understand.
Okay. It doesn't function.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure they're interchangeable, but that's the only rule I know that's different.
Okay. What doesn't Gemini do well?
It doesn't have projects. So projects where you save a folder and then you can have chats in it. So when you're planning 2026, you could create a project so that you can all talk in there. And then that would allow you to then add team members into that same project so you can all collaborate in a similar space. That's number 1. Number 2, it doesn't have custom instructions. So custom instructions are your way in, and this works in Claude and Grok and ChatGPT, of telling it how you want it to respond. Do you want it to be funny? Do you want it to explain everything? Do you want it to use analogies? Do you want it to use frameworks? Do you want it to always give you a for example? Do you want it to use 6th grade language? What's its name? Should it hold you accountable? So for example, ChatGPT has been told for me that delegation is not my strong point, that I will put work on myself and forget to give it to my team. So ChatGPT used to, hence why I kind of had a bit of an issue, used to turn around and say, hey, when I'd say I need to do this, ChatGPT would say, are you sure you need to do that? That sounds like a job for somebody on the team. Whereas, so Gemini doesn't have custom instructions. So it doesn't have custom instructions. It doesn't have projects.
Yeah. And I personally, as a Google Workspace person, I don't love that. So I find myself starting to use Gemini a little bit, but still using for projects and team-based stuff,
So
ChatGPT, because our organization is still
well,
tied
you're gonna do the
connected
shift
to it.
soon because it's inevitable because we spend enough time together, and you'll start following that same workflow. Claude will be your number one. Gemini will be your number two.
I think Claude already is my number one, but I meant for team projects that are
Claude has
company
team
related.
projects. Claude has all that.
Apparently, I need to get more familiar with Claude, which I use a lot. All right, I got.
So let me give you an example of how a couple of episodes ago we talked about planning a vacation. I used Gemini for planning my Disney vacation because remember what I said about it can take in more data. So I said, the first thing I said is, I want you to look at the top 50 blogs from the last 60 days about Disney. And I want you to look at YouTube and find the top 20 most recent episodes about what's good, what's bad. I want you to look at the historical patterns of attendance in Orlando Airport for the last 10 years to work out what kind of thing. And I want you to look at the weather patterns from the last 20 years in order to work out what day I should go where and when and what I should pack go. So I gave it way more data than I could have done in the other systems. So as soon as I knew I wanted to plan a 2-week vacation, my first instinct was, oh, I need to go to Gemini. Even if it's less friendly, even if it's a bit more kludgy, I know its ability to process more information is going to lead to a richer experience and a richer output.
Incredible. Peter, before we go, I think a promise I made to myself is that we're not going to get out of any episode without a parlor trick. So we're running short on time, but I need a Gemini parlor trick. And I'm going to give you 3 options to explain how they work. One would be the email archaeologist, the meeting time machine, or the YouTube spy.
YouTube spy. Easy.
All right. Give it to me.
You can give it well, I'm going to combine it with something I said as well. You could ask Gemini to go to this YouTube, pull the transcription, understand the framework, and create an infographic that was social media worthy, and you could do that in one prompt.
So you're, for instance, looking at your competitor maybe and seeing what they're doing and then creating something that fills in the gaps or the holes or makes it better?
Well, let's say you're a financial analyst or something. You could go on to a Morgan Stanley report or a Jamie Dimon or a Citibank or a UBS or whomever it might be and grab a great piece of content as they explain this big concept. Or how about this? It's an easier example. How about the day after the Berkshire Hathaway AGM, you pull the transcript, because it's broadcast, it's live streamed, I believe now. You pull the transcript and you create a PDF with a top 10 takeaways from Berkshire Hathaway, and you create an infographic that you can post on social and say, DM me this and I'll send you through my report. And it could be run in probably 15 to 20 seconds.
Incredible. All right. If you got value from this, here's what I want you to do. First, like the episode for us. We're a new show, and those likes tell the algorithm we're not just 2 idiots rambling into microphones. We are, but it tells the algorithm we're not. But it's useful information. The likes help us find other people, etc. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. We're breaking down a different AI tool most weeks, certainly parlor tricks, AI tricks every week. That's our promise to you. If you're trying to figure out which ones actually matter, you need to be here. And then third, share, but don't just share. Go try it first. Peter just gave you a great parlor trick with Gemini. Ask it a question. Go just have fun with it. Go see what it could tell you about a YouTube video. It doesn't have to be a competitor. It could just be something fun, something you want to learn. See what happens. Then share the episode with someone in your world who's still scared of this stuff or thinks ChatGPT is the only game in town. It's not. It's still a great tool, but there's other tools, and we're going to start breaking them down week by week here. So when you share it after you've tried it, not before, you're not just forwarding a podcast. You're saying, I did this, it worked, now it's your turn. And by the way, we are ready to hear from you. What AI questions do you have? What do you want to know about? What do you? I'm your voice, so I'll pick Peter's brain for you. What tools do you want us to break down? What's confusing you? Email us at idiots@successfulidiots.com, or if you want to step into the AI world, it's idiots@successfulidiots.ai. Both of them work, and we're going to read everything. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.